All right, so we are finally getting to a video to break down what the kids crawler used parts wise, where we got everything. Some of the most common questions we have is what motor? It's a 1983 Suzuki LT230E that is shaft driven. The other question that we always get is how does the motor connect to the transfer case? This is an intermediate shaft from a Suzuki Samurai that then gets welded onto the piece from the four-wheeler to connect the motor to the transfer case. You can see it over on the Buggy that we've got the intermediate shaft to the input of the transfer case that then goes to the output of front and rear, making it four-wheel drive. Another super common question that we get is, what is the steering? This is a sandrail rack and pinion from Cartech. We have our steering shaft that then goes to a universal side-by-side electronic power steering. So it's what is used in all the new side-by-sides to have power steering. We get asked all the time why we didn't go with a hydraulic steering. I chose to do this because it's one less fluid. If something was to happen, the kids wouldn't be burned by the hot fluids. I got burned when I rolled down Chewy, and that is why I chose not to do a hydraulic steering until they're older and can understand if something does happen, jump out of the seat, undo their harnesses, get away from the hot fluid. Another common question we've gotten is, what are the axles out of? The axles are from a Suzuki Samurai. As well, it's the same Samurai that the transfer case came out of. We are four-linked front and rear. One thing with this car is it's currently running in reverse because I didn't know when I chose this motor that the motor ran clockwise. We need a motor that runs counterclockwise because when it's in first gear, it runs in reverse. And when it runs in reverse, it goes forward. So we learned that because in the driveway, the first time I started it up after getting it off the trailer, it ran me over. So that was a lot of fun. So when I first started this build, I tried to do everything as cheap as possible. I found these for about $100 a pair. They're snowmobile air shocks, and I figured they'd be perfect for when the kids are little. I chose that just because cheap, and now I've actually got 10-inch air shocks from Fox coming in the front, and then 12-inch air shocks in the rear, so that this car will have more articulation. I still am not going to weld the diffs because I want them to still understand and learn tire placement and how to drive. I think there's too many people that have way too capable of rigs for what they're capable of driving. This will give the kids the ability to learn how to drive instead of just being able to drive over every obstacle they put their tires on. Wiring wise, it's super simple. Took all the factory ATV wiring out, deleted the lights, the stuff that didn't need to be used. We did add a GPS speedometer, aftermarket lights, starter button, master switch button. We are running a lithium-ion battery. Here's our fuse block for the items that need to be fused. We are running a 5 PSI carbureted fuel pump. This motor ran with a vacuum fuel pump and it just was not going to work. So we chose to do a electronically controlled fuel pump so that the motor never starves of fuel. We're running a Amazon special 2.5 gallon fuel cell that we really have not ever gotten close to running out of fuel. We fill up maybe once every 10 trips. Super fuel efficient. My buddy Antonio is the genius behind all the wiring. We made it super simple for the kids. It's a one button to turn the fuel pump on, one button to start the car. Okay, so seats. They are a race trim toddler seat. This is the seats that we have in the Buggy now. I bought some new ones when we stopped at CarTech when we were in California earlier this spring. We had some old Crow toddler harnesses. I decided to get some new Aces Racing because they're padded and the kids complained about them not being padded. I know I tried to answer most of the common questions that we get. We will be doing more build videos where I can answer more questions in depth. Leave a comment below. We'll get to those questions when we do the breakdown and the upgrades of this car. Follow along and subscribe to see the adventures of the kids wheeling and upgrading their rigs.